Walsh, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met for this meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of this meeting was filed with the record in Town News and all persons requesting such notice. Mr. Darian, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School District is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mrs. Needham,
Here.
Mr. Griffin,
Here.
Mrs. Levy,
Here.
Mrs. Norian, Mrs. Shapiro,
Here.
Mrs. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Walsh,
Here,
Mr. Darian,
Here.
Mrs. Nichols.
Here, we're open to the public for agenda items only. If you're joining us on Zoom, please raise your digital hand. Rami, could you unmute, oh, never mind. Not seeing, we'll move forward. I was going to mention something about our Odyssey teams, but I will turn it over to Mrs. Longo, the superintendent, because I know she is going to discuss it. So superintendent's report.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I have some great news, and I think it's about time we had some great news from our talented students. So I started doing some homework on Odyssey of the Mind because I heard so much about what our students do. So Odyssey of the Mind, if you don't know, has been a great creative problem-solving program since its beginning in 1978. What started as a project for students in a single industrial design class has grown into a worldwide program that has reached multiple generations, allowing students to learn, develop, and employ skills related to teamwork, resource management, designing, divergent thinking, and so much more. Oradell competed for the first time in 2009, thanks to advisor Tracy Shum. And in 2013, they made it to the finals for the first time, and they have finished in the top 10 every year since 2014. This year, Oradell entered with 4 students, 2 returning competitors, and 2 new ones. Jocelyn Gramachas, Natalie Gramachas, Lydia Freed, and Sanvi Gower. In the March 13th regional tournament, our students placed top, winning all 3 categories out of 13 schools. On April 17th, they are going to find out if they are going to the world competition. I want to congratulate and wish the team and Ms. Shum good luck as they compete at the next level.
Thank you. Anything else in your report?
So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Business administrator's report?
Just wanted to mention that the personal disclosure statements are due by April 30th, so just a reminder about that. And also, we just received word that this year's New Jersey School Board's workshop is going to be held virtually once again. It won't be an in-person workshop. So I just wanted to share that, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. We move on to minutes, review of meeting minutes for March 10th. Any questions or comments, please email Mr. Marmara. We have approval of the February 24th minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the meeting of February 24th.
Second. Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Needham,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes. Committee reports, buildings and grounds, Mr. Darian.
Yes, update from the subcommittee. We met earlier tonight. We discussed several projects. Actually, we prioritized projects. as we can't get to everything. So we prioritized the following items. We talked about interior parking lot, the retaining walls, resurfacing the faculty parking lot this summer, building maintenance, some building maintenance projects, moving classroom furniture in and out of our storage facility, improvements to our basement hallway, and facility use. There's been some talk about whether or not we're interested in allowing the facility to be used, and the subcommittee pretty much came to the conclusion that we are open with limitations and we'll be able to handle requests on a case-by-case basis. But just to put things in perspective, our gym is half filled with furniture, so it's not like, we have a lot of interior space available. But we have had facility requests for the grounds. We haven't approved them already. So with that said, I'd like to introduce items B1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions?
Mr. Darian, did you want to include the additional use of facilities from the PTA?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thanks, Mr. Marmara. We also discussed at subcommittee, we had a last-minute request today
Oh, that's right.
for facility use by the PTA Garden Committee. So I would like to amend my motion to include B2, which would allow facility use to the PTA Garden Committee on, I believe it's 326. I'm looking at the form here. Yes, 326 and 328. For the purposes of cleaning up the garden and planting. There's no fee involved, and all the work will be done outside.
I'll second that motion too.
Any questions? Call the question?
Mrs. Needham,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Nguyen,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes. Curriculum, Mrs. Norian?
Yes, we did have a meeting on it was March the 15th. And we reviewed a number of things, including where we are in our different grade levels, and how a comparison between remote and hybrid on the results that we have, the data we received. I asked that this information be shared with the whole board so that you have an idea on what it is that we've gotten in the way of our data collection. Hopefully that'll happen shortly, and I apologize for my shortness of breath. The presentation included information on where we're going with our curriculum writing moving forward, because we have a number of areas that we have to address. Unless there's anything else that you have, Rita, we should have minutes for this coming out. I have a little bit of a problem in that I was sent the draft minutes, and every time I'm sent something, I have to be approved in order to be able to open it. And so I don't know when I'm approved to get back into it, because there's no notification that I've been approved to get back in. So
You just want them sent in Word?
Hmm?
You want them just sent in Word
it
format?
would really just, however, just to send it to me, because there's a lapse, a time lapse.
Yeah, I can't get in either.
Okay,
Mrs. Longo?
Yes, I will send them in Word,
Thanks.
okay, thank you.
of course.
Maybe send them in both formats to
Yeah.
every committee member every time, so then people can decide how they want to see it.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. And with that being said, that's where we stand. With that, I'd like to move on item C1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Mrs. Walker?
Just to piggyback on what Mrs. Norian said, I thought that it was a very comprehensive report given by our administration on where we're at, as Mrs. Norian said, as far as also testing goes and the results of the testing from the students, and very positive reporting back as far as seeing really the students progressing well, that we haven't had a big loss in learning across the areas of curriculum in Lincoln that they've been tested in. So I think that we can be proud and happy to see this with all the dire things you are hearing about other schools and districts and problems. So, and
Yes,
I think
it was very, very positive.
and I think it would be very beneficial if the rest of the board did
Right.
receive that packet just to examine it. It was very comprehensive.
Because it includes so much information that I really think that the whole board should take a look at it. And then if we need to have a discussion after that, we'll have a discussion, but I think we all should have this.
Any other questions?
I have a question on C1.
Yes.
Is this for specific grades?
It's for the
field trip?
sixth grade luncheon. That's the graduation luncheon.
Okay, okay, wasn't obvious from here. Thank you.
Any other questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Needham,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Norian,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes,
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, Mrs. Shapiro, Finance Technology.
So last time we met was a couple of weeks ago when we finalized the budget and it went to the county. I expect that we'll have another meeting probably after spring break where we can discuss financing some of those projects that were brought up in buildings and grounds. I would like to make a motion to approve items D1 through D10.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Needham,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Norian,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker, Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, delegate report, Mr. Walsh.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Personnel, Mrs. Walker.
yes, thank you. I'd like to present F1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question.
Mrs. Needham,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Norian,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes,
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, policy, Mrs. Levy.
No, nothing to report.
Public relations, Mr. Griffin.
No report, just a reminder that we'd like a write-up of what the committee requirements or the direction is before we next meet.
Task force, Mr. Griffin.
Task force last met on March 3rd, and I updated the board last time, so no new update.
Open to the public at this time. If you are joining us on Zoom, please raise your digital hand. Nine. Well, nine on the public. Rami, could you please unmute Ms. Shao?
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to thank you, Mrs. Longo. I appreciate the positivity and the good vibes. And we're going to keep working really hard. We're going to get through states. I just know it. So thank you so much for the shout out. I appreciate it. I'm very proud of them.
Thank
So
you.
are we. We're all proud of them.
Good to go.
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, moving to older new business. Mrs. Walker?
I guess this would be new business for anyone who hasn't done their mandatory financial disclosure form. Just a little aside that I found was helpful for me is when it's different this year and you have to fill it out, then download it, then upload it, submit it to them. What I did, and it was a labor of undue necessary. I filled out the form when I first went on, and then I lost it in my process of trying to save it on my desktop. So my suggestion, and thanks to John, very, very nicely and patiently encouraged me to call him back, but I was determined. So I saved it to my desktop. So my suggestion is when you pull up the form, save it right away to wherever you want to save it, because then you have to, after you fill it all out, at least you have it and you know where it is. And those that did it already, I don't know if you had the same experience, but just a little tip.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin? Oh. Any other old or new business? We need to go into a closed session? Okay, thanks. Motion to
I
adjourn?
move that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.